recorded? No. Leave meeting. Just kidding.
Yay! Your hair looks so brown.
Yeah, I actually tried to tone it, and it turned it brown.
Oh, damn. I was about to say,
yeah, isn't that?
You're like.
No, it's, yeah, I mean, does it look like slightly purple to you?
Yeah, it does.
It looks so I was wondering if people would notice. I was like, I hope no one notices, because all I wanted to do was take the orange out, and then it literally, like, I washed it out, and Shannon was like, your hair looks really dark. And I was like, I didn't think toner did that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I didn't think it turned it brown.
I don't know what toner does, man. You can get, like, I know they use purple in my hair to try to get the silver color that I want, but they have, like, pink toner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, well, I bought, oh, wait, just really quick. I mean, because you can cut this out, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I bought, like, the darkest one, but it was, like, beige blonde. And then I left it in for, like, 15 minutes, and it says up to 30. And then it came out, and it was, like, it was darker than this. But I'm fine with it because it's the winter, so in the summer, it'll lighten. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it looks cool.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I think it looks nice.
Well, yes, so I got Leah Yancey on here. Can't call you Leah Tremblay because you're Leah Yancey now. So it's kind of
my driver's license.
It's official. So, okay, give me like some of your background. Not that I don't know your background because I've known you your entire life. But like kind of like tell me about your background and your hobbies, and like I want you to tell me about who is Jordan Peterson, because not everybody not everybody knows him. So I want to get your Jordan Peterson perspective on all of this too.
Okay, I always have a Jordan Peterson perspective on things. So I graduated from Virginia Tech with computer science and mathematics, but I'm not really doing that right now. My hobbies are, I like to, I read a lot, and I've been watching podcasts a lot. And obviously, that Jordan Peterson is like my inspiration at the moment. He's like, he has so many different podcasts and a lot of lectures because he was a professor at the University of Toronto, and he was also, I think Harvard, I can't remember, but he was a professor in the United States as well. He's a clinical psychologist. He has a lot of background in, what's the word? Like, he does a lot of research on totalitarian governments and stuff like that. Yeah. So whenever he sees government policies that kind of are encroaching on control, then that sends up a red flag for him. And I'm talking as if I know him, but that's what I have gauged from all of his lectures and all of that. So he talks about a lot on political correctness and cancel culture and the dangers of it. I can't like reverberate his thoughts on it perfectly because he's extremely eloquent. But what brought him to fame, because before, he wasn't very influential. He was just a professor and a clinical psychologist. He had a lot of, interviews that weren't, he was somewhat public, but what really brought him to light was the Bill C-16 in Canada, which we've talked about before, which is a bill that essentially it is pushing for compelled speech, which means it centers around transgenders. So you are compelled to use someone's pronouns based on what they prefer. So basically, if I were to identify as Zer or Z, or, the multitude of pronouns that exist now, yeah, worm self, which he brought up, which is hilarious. But like it is a real thing. People identify as like it's almost comical, but it's actually happening where people, you know, identify as a wide range of things. And then in Canada, they were trying to make it illegal if you didn't use their specific pronouns, like according to them, which so Jordan Peterson kind of got labeled as transphobic because he was like, oh, compelled speech, that is a slippery slope, that is a dangerous path. Because as soon as you're saying, it's one thing to say, okay, you can't say that, which we have things like that in America. Inciting violence is one which like everyone can pretty much agree on that. Like, okay, don't yell fire in a crowded theater because that is dangerous. People could actually die from that. Or, you know, you can't say on a platform, hey, go and kill this person, go and like beat up their family. Doxing is what we see now. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's bad. But to just say something like there's a controversy on hate speech as well, because it's like, what is hate speech? It's really loosely defined. So that's a whole nother animal in itself, saying what you can't say. But another thing to be like, you have to say this or you're going to jail. That's what he was worried about, because as soon as you start trying to control people's speech and telling them, hey, you have to say this, even if you don't believe in it, like that's what we see in totalitarian governments. That's what we see in these like regimes where they're like, you have to say that this chancellor or this leader is the best. It's like, even if you don't believe it, you know, that's like an extreme example, but it's like, that's where that can lead to. That like, yeah, it gets pretty muddy when you go down that road.
And obviously with the Jordan Peterson thing, it was like, I think generally people just get confused on like, should I refer to my friend as he or she? Like, I honestly like made that mistake, and like forcing people to say things like, even though they don't mean them, like, I don't know. I mean, like, for the transgender community, it is, like, a matter of respect, which I understand that. But you can't, like, force somebody to say something that they really have no idea, like, how even to interpret, like, your...
Yeah, well, yeah, and I mean, like, it's kind of a question of, like, civility. Like, of course you don't want to purposely offend people, but if we constantly avoided anything that could ever possibly offend someone, then you would never talk about anything real, you know? And it's like walking on, you know, eggshells around people just because you don't want to offend them, or to the extreme, you don't want to go to jail if you say the wrong thing. It's like, you know, it's not practical if you ever want to have a real conversation. So that's when it gets into the free speech realm of like, we need to talk about things that are important. That's how we learn. It's like, if you just, that's Wagner.
Wagner was
right there.
Podcast. Like, okay.
You see him like,
I hurt my face.
It's okay, honey. So I forgot what I was saying.
Well, basically, I mean, this is going to be a good transition into, I just want to talk about your views on people on cancel culture, which is why I definitely am going to link the Jordan Peterson cancel culture video, which I'm sure you will send me a link for later, but I'll definitely put that.
There's a lot. Are you referring to one specifically?
I mean, I'll just have you send me your favorite one.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot. He focuses on political correctness a lot. But he when he talks about it, it's more of like the modernist view of it, where he is extremely against postmodernism. So that's a lot of what it circles around. But I'll find one that's like specifically about cancel culture.
Can you explain what you mean by like the postmodernism, and does that go along with like kind of what our topic is, like Gen Zers kind of hopping onto I know you've said the phrase before. I'm thinking of like the herd mentality. But everybody.
Yeah, tribalism.
Yeah.
Tribalism. So I'm not going to define postmodernism perfect, but the essential idea, is the collective for over the individual. The idea that you are, a part of your group more than you are an individual. And it's like, it's more collectivism.
Yeah.
But that, I will send you a video of Jordan Peterson talking about it because he explains it really well.
Yeah.
A lot of what he says, it's like I can't even repeat because I'm not capable of saying it.
Yeah. And I know a lot of young people like love Jordan Peterson. I have tried to listen to Jordan Peterson and it is a challenge for me. So that's why it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, from what you tell me, I can understand what you're telling to me. So like, I find it super interesting when you explain Jordan Peterson to me. But when I try to watch Jordan Peterson, I'm like, okay, how do I follow this? It's like me trying to read Henry Miller.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's good content, but it's hard to follow. It's easier if like you explain it to me.
Yeah, because I think he gets into the weeds a lot more than like people are used to. And it's the philosophical. He always goes, like whenever someone's talking, he's like, But yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so funny when he says like, it's bloody right. Like it's like, oh gosh, I can't do a Jordan Peterson, but I've tried.
You'll get it one day.
Yeah, but. Yeah, a lot of people, what they say about Jordan Peterson when he's talking, they say that he explains things that you have always thought, but were never able to put into words.
Yeah.
So that's like, it's like a lot of people have said that to him. And it's like, it's extremely true because there's so many things that I'm like, oh my God, in my head, oh, it all makes sense, it's all clicking. And then I try to say it in words and I'm like, man, my vocabulary just isn't there yet. I can't structure it. I can't like get my point across like I would like to. But he explains things that it's like, oh my God, it like everything clicks. The people, either don't know who he is or have an assumption of what he is based on what other people say, or they've seen clips of him, or like, I was saying to my friend something about him and they said, oh, isn't he like political? It's like Jordan Peterson is not political. He's not like, he's never said anything that's like overtly political. And even when he talks about his books, he's like, it's more about ethics. It's like, it's an ethical problem. It's not a political problem. That's not like, it just so happens that the point that he fell on made one side angry and the other side like happy, they're like, yeah, that's what happens with a lot of people who are specifically apolitical. They'll say something and then it makes one side happy and the other side not, and then they'll say something the next day that switches the roles. So like they'll literally be called right wing and like far left at the same time by either side, because it depends on what they're saying, because they're not specifically trying to make one side happy. They're just saying what they believe, and at any given moment, one side will agree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's where he kind of got moved into the evil category of, oh, he's far right, but he grew up in Canada. He describes himself as liberal. I mean, I don't know if he's actually said that. I won't put that into his words, but I think he has said something like, I mean, I fall on a lot of, I'm more liberal on certain issues, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because he hates, defining someone into a category. That's basically his whole thing, talking about like, at any given moment, a person could fall into so many different categories: a female, white, like race, gender, like your political status, your religion, your economic status, in any one category, you could be an oppressor or you could be oppressed. So to automatically look at someone and say, oh, you're a victim or oh, you're an oppressor, it's like, that's not how we should view people. We should look at people as individuals. And that's his, like, individualism, I would say, sum up Jordan Peterson's beliefs mostly overall.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it's interesting that you have your degree in computer science, but we've talked so many times, and you could definitely be in the MCOM squad, the media and communication squad, we call it at Shenandoah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of went into computer science because, like, I knew I wanted to go into engineering because
and you're great at that.
Yeah,
and it's
like Uncle Dave was an engineer and
separate.
Yeah, so it's just I kind of fell into computer science because I didn't know which one to go into, and I was good at math, but I didn't want to be a math major, and then so I just went into computer science, and then it's like when I actually started to discover my real interests, I'm like a junior, and it's like, we'll see what happens. It's like I'm lucky that like computer science does overlap with a lot of other fields. Like you could literally go into music with computer science, you know, you could go into a lot of different things, but it's like I am extremely interested in like philosophy and psychology and all of that stuff that I could easily go into.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah. But so basically I want to apply your understanding of like these philosophies and ideas to the phenomenon, the crazy culture that we are in right now, because we have had our own divisions over this, and I do value your opinion, and I really do try to take it to heart. And then obviously emotions get so involved, and that applies to everything you were just saying of like, oh, I am like part of this group and you're not part of my group. And now there's like this divide. And it's like, I feel like people are so quick to, with Trump as president, and I think that with Trump being president, like within the YouTube community, it has fueled the fire for cancel culture even more, because everybody labels Trump as a xenophobe, sexist, rapist, racist, and now it's definitely crossed over into the Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson, like as well.
Yeah. So I would say it's on every single platform. So it's on, you know, Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's on, like, we see that going on right now where they're going with Twitter and Facebook, trying to follow that route.
Chaos.
Yeah, and it's a big issue on YouTube as well. And I would say, like, it's hard to say which came first, Trump being elected or cancel culture. I think cancel culture kind of actually fueled it to Trump getting elected. So, and it's hard to say because at that point, you know, I wasn't politically inclined at all. Like, I didn't really care about what was going on, so I wasn't really paying attention. But from what I can tell, like, cancel culture is what drives the divide. Because, so, if you think about it, if we're canceling a bunch of people for having certain opinions on all these different platforms, it's like, do those ideas go away? No. If anything, it emboldens them. They go and they find their own crowd. It's like, oh, I can exist on this platform. It's like we're seeing that right now with Twitter and Parler, or Facebook and Parler, whichever. I think Parler is supposed to be like a Facebook. But it's like, oh, okay, all of these conservatives are getting canceled from these platforms, so we're going to go make our own platform. Okay, now we have two separate echo chambers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, now all of these ideas exist on this side, where it's like, oh, we all agree with each other. Oh, we all agree with each other over here. And they just get stronger and stronger and stronger, because when you have an idea that has no adversity, that like never has to face any scrutiny or opposition, it's like, that's not how we get better ideas. That's how we get far, far worse ideas. It's like, if you silence half, it's like, why do we have debate? And It's like, you need to have your idea and have it as strong as possible, and know the opposition's points, their viewpoints, know how your ideas are better and can go against those ideas. Like, the lack of communication only makes the division worse. Like, and people think, oh, if someone says something I don't like, just get rid of it and it goes away. It's like, no, it doesn't go away. It just, like, if your ideas are truly the best, then you should be able to talk to whoever about them, and you should seek out someone who is really good at explaining the opposite side, because it's like, that's how you get stronger. It's like, adversity makes you stronger. It's like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And Jordan Peterson talks about, that's how you get, if there's an idea in your head that you have wrong, and you have a conversation, and then something clicks and you're like, wow, what I was thinking before was wrong. He talks about it, that part of you dies and a new part of you is born. It's like, now a new idea is born. It's like, now I've learned something. And it's like, that's how we learn. Like, if we're doing something that's wrong, if we're like following a habit that is hurting us, it's like, how do you go against that? How do you change who you are? It's not by everyone surrounding you and saying, you're doing great, keep going. We're just gonna like say you're everything, all your thoughts are right. And it's like, that might be the problem with kids that were growing up that didn't face any adversity, that didn't have like these ideas of safe spaces. It's like, oh no, nothing can hurt you here. We're just gonna coddle you. We're just gonna tell you you're right in everything you do. We're never gonna say anything against what you already think. And now these people think, oh, I'm always right. I never have to hear anything that goes against what I already think. It's a recipe for disaster. So I think that might be what we're seeing in all these platforms. Where like, wait, someone can think something different than me? Nope, they're a Nazi, they're racist, they're all of these things, because it's so easy to paint that label on them. And then everyone's like, hey, we don't like those things. You know?
Yeah. It's better, like, even in an interpersonal perspective, it's better to have a friend that's going to tell you, like, dude, what you're doing is wrong and you're messing right now. Like,
and people don't like to hear that.
Exactly.
You know? And like, so it is an understandable concept of like, nope, shut it down. I don't want to hear it. But we, like, as humans, we understand that's not the like mature thing to do, or the thing that's going to make you better.
Yeah.
It can only hurt you by doing that.
And I have, like, you know me, because I've called you several times, like, crying because I got in a fight with somebody on Facebook or something over something stupid. And then
I would also say no good conversations can be had on those platforms. I will say that. Like, because that like, internet fights are just the worst form of discussion. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's like in the comments, it's like that person isn't going to change their mind. And the people who are in those comments, it's like they're only going to say the most charged thing they can to get likes. So it's not really the best form of communication, but it is a place to find different ideas. So posting different articles, posting all of that, it's like, if you just shut out one half of that, then people they can't even find the other side, because you're seeing it with Google too. It's like certain Google searches prop up other news sources above the other, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's a search result algorithm that you see on Facebook. There are whistleblowers that have come out on Facebook saying certain people's jobs are to delete content, because they actually have real people who are going through these reported comments or content and deleting it. And they have certain guidelines, but then they are more lenient towards certain viewpoints. So they're like, oh, well, this shows a person that we don't like in a compromising position, and that's against our guidelines, but let's just leave it up. We'll leave that one up. And this one that is negative towards a person that we like, just take that down. I mean, that violates the guidelines, obviously. But it's like when they see something that violates the guidelines in their favor, they tend to leave it up. And that's from whistleblowers in Facebook saying, it's like, yeah, I experienced them telling me, oh, no, that's fine, even though I could see it violates the guidelines. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, basically, like, bringing it back to, like, that kind of ties into, so all of these things, like, all of these liberal kind of viewpoints come out about Trump and, like, putting these clips together saying, and then we're easily jumping on the bandwagon of saying he's, like, a racist, white supremacist and stuff. And, like, I know that we had this conversation before where it was, like, I don't know, I just feel like the media and social media platforms have a negativity bias, and it's contributing to us. Yeah, we're just like, even like there's memes going around of saying like, oh, I've deleted like anybody who's a Trump supporter, and like I'll unfollow you right now.
I saw someone post that on Facebook, and so I don't really go on Facebook. I use it for the Messenger app because group chats are a little easier when you have like, you know, Androids and iPhones trying to have a group chat. So I use that messaging app and I click it, and the first thing I see is this guy who's like, if you voted for Trump, you are a racist, transphobic, you know, every name in the book, like literally probably 10 different horrible names.
Oh, that's what everybody's saying on social media.
Yeah, it's like, if you, just delete me and like get rid of me, and, or, you know, he's saying like, I don't want to see you, you're the worst person in the world and stuff like that. And it's like, if we have half the country viewing the other half of the country as all of those horrible things, it's like, what is that going to lead to? And it's like, to view one side as irredeemable is just, it's so dangerous. And also, like, you're not even trying to see the other side. And it's like, that's what people's mindset are. It's like, oh, well, I don't even need to hear the other side. I don't even need to hear their points because I've already decided what they think.
Yeah.
They don't need to tell me. It's like, don't you see, like, and someone posted, like, don't you think that's a little rough? And he's like, no, it's not, because I don't need that in my life. And it's like, okay, yeah, never have anyone who thinks differently in your life. That's a smart way to live. It's like, no, it's not. I mean, so, like, Trump is a tough nut to crack in terms of, like, when you're talking about him, there's so much involved in that, you know. It's a very charged topic, but
and
like, what were you gonna say?
When it comes to like the racism thing, it's like, it's hard for me to believe that, like, it seems impossible. Like, not all of these people are racist. I think that there's, you know, racist things that have kind of like passed, like people let slide for a long time, and now as the Generation Zers are becoming like, they've grown up their whole lives on social media, so that's like, that's an interesting phenomenon in itself. And they are not going to tolerate anything that's they perceive as like putting other people down. But where was I going with this? So
I can say one thing before you finish that thought. So you were saying, it's like they're not going to tolerate things that they perceive as putting other people down. But I think a lot of that, like, I think people want to be offended sometimes, and they want to be offended on other people's behalf. Like, that's what it seems like to me, because it's like, when you're offended, like, let's say we're having a conversation and you say something that offends me, then I can take the high ground and be like, wow, how dare you offend me? Like, that's like one of the common things that people, how dare you? And, you know, it's just like, it automatically like lifts me up above you, because it's like, wow, like, how dare you would denigrate anything that has to do with me or like that offense. Yeah, it kind of like it elevates people a little bit. It gives them the sense of victimhood. It's like, oh, I'm a victim, you're attacking me. That automatically puts you in the oppressor category.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, so there are people who get offended for people who aren't offended. And we've seen that, like, where it's like with the Redskins. Yeah, it's like Larry, who was Native American. It's like, I'm not offended by that.
Wasn't
and
that
then,
like his favorite
you know,
football team or something?
Yeah, he loves the Redskins, but now they're like just called the Washington football team. And it's like, okay, well, we're not actually seeing a lot of people who are truly, like, they changed the word for Latino and Latina to Latinx or something to put an X because O and A. And it's like, Latinos don't like that term. Like, they did a survey and it's like, the majority of Latinos don't like that term. They're like, no, it's Latino or Latina. Like, that's, why are you changing that? I'm not offended. No one's offended. It's like, there are feminine and masculine pronouns in Spanish, in like these Latino languages.
He like explaining that to us. He's like, yeah, that's just how it is. Some things are feminine. I don't know why. Maybe it's sexist. I don't know. That's just the way it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's not sexist. So like, people have also attacked Jordan Peterson for like, he talks about order and chaos is feminine and order is masculine, but it's deeper than just, oh, men and women. It's like,
yeah, Shannon,
you know, yeah, it's like Mother Nature, like, that's feminine, but like, that's also a good thing. But it's like, there's chaos, there's beauty in chaos, and there's also like destruction in chaos, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, like Mother Nature is categorized as feminine, and then there's other things that are categorized as masculine. It's not and people don't understand that masculine doesn't mean male. It's like, men can have feminine characteristics and masculine characteristics, and like, they overlap, you know? But it's like, people I think mix those up, and then they want to be offended by it, and it's like, there's no need to be offended by it. But I think a lot of the times, you know, it's like, sorry, Shannon's distracting me.
Needed water.
Yeah, I think people want to be on the moral high ground in a lot of these discussions. So if you look at the people who are actually defending these topics, it's like, you tend to find that it's like, it's educated, wealthy, white people who are advocating for the minorities. And it's like, okay, yeah, we do want advocation for the minorities, but it's like, they want to feel like they're on the side of the victims because it makes them feel superior. So it's like, it's kind of like, Shannon, stop.
Trying to avoid the camera.
Yeah, for me,
sorry, I got distracted.
I mean, I've even seen it on social media. It's kind of like, you should post, like, if you've donated to like Black Lives Matter and like all this stuff, you should post your receipt. And like, for me, it's kind of like,
what?
Why would I do that? Like, I did send money to them, but I'm not gonna be like
virtue signaling
right now on this podcast. But it's like,
yeah.
Look, I said I'm a good person. Like,
yeah, it's the virtue signaling thing.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, look, I'm good. Look, I'm fighting for the little guy. See, like, not only am I wealthy and white and have all of these privileges, but I also speak for them, so I'm therefore like the best thing in the world. And it's like, wait, what? It's like, that doesn't automatically, like, you know what I mean? It's like, they not only want to be like, they want both avenues of righteousness. They want to like also have moral superiority, and like, it's just, I don't know.
I have questions written down for you. So
What's up?
this ties into what we're saying. Are Generation Zers too sensitive?
Or what? Gen Zers?
Are Gen Zers too sensitive?
Well, so yeah. That's one of those questions that it's like you don't want to put people in a group. You don't want to make over generalizations, you know what I mean?
That's fun.
Like
that's funny because it's what we're talking about.
Yeah. It's like I could be like, yeah, Gen Zers are too sensitive and they can't, like take any sort of criticism, but it's like I think culturally really, yeah, why does it sound weird? Like I think right now we live in a culture where that is encouraged. So it's like I wouldn't say Gen Zers are too sensitive, but like right now it is definitely encouraged to, take that standpoint or to take that position of if you if you don't like what you're hearing, then that person is, doing something wrong to you. Like that means that you're a victim and they're in the wrong. It's like if you just don't like what they're saying, or like, I mean, you can just, I don't know. I want to kind of
I think it might also be
clear up what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I think it might also be something with like being that age, like being like in your teens or whatever, you're just naturally going to be like, F everybody, all these old people don't get it because they're old, and like we're the younger ones and we're the best because of it, and like we're starting a revolution, and it kind of like pisses me off because it's like, dude, I was there, like I was just in your shoes and you're acting like your ideas are so like brand new when like
Yeah.
and
well,
then
it's a sense of entitlement, and it is dangerous because as soon as you start to think that you're like the smartest generation or you're so much smarter and all of these people in the past, they were so dumb, when in reality it's like we're standing on the shoulders of the people from the past, and we're like, oh man, we're so tall, and it's like, no, like there are things that people discovered and people came out with these ideas, and like brilliant people, and like Jordan Peterson himself is like relying on a lot of like Piaget and like these different psychologists and philosophers and all of their ideas, and he's researching them and he's kind of just continuing them. He's not coming up with this all on his own. It's like, so people want to look back in the past and be like, man, look how stupid they were. Like, look how they treated people. They were so horrible. And like, see, if we were just in the past, we would have done it right. And it's like, it's such a ignorant viewpoint. It's such an ignorant way to look at the past. It's like, man, if only I was there, I would have done it right. It's kind of like how people view communism. It's like, oh, well, that just wasn't real communism. And it's like, what they're saying is, if I had done it, I would have done it better. And it's like, well, hold on there. It's like, are you just assuming that you're perfect and you could, like, what's the word? Like, you're uncorruptible?
Yeah.
Like, no, people are corruptible. It's like, what is the quote? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's like, as soon it's in human nature that like we fall victim to these like it's a cycle of like people continuously thinking, oh, like we're the better generation, we've got it right, yeah, we know everything, we've decided you guys are the bad ones and we're going to take over them. And Tim Pool just came out with a music video called Will of the People, and he shows like he kind of shows a cycle of revolution and how it starts. So he's like, oh, like these horrible rebels come in and they attack your family, and then there's a kid hiding under the bed and sees this and sees these horrible atrocities. So then they're like, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to revolt. And then it literally just, it's the same thing happening over and over, where it's like that person grows up and like they're starting the revolution, and then they become the people who are breaking into people's homes and you know, locking people up or shooting them in the streets. It's like, it is a dangerous cycle that it's like, we need to be aware that this continues to happen. Like, this isn't, we can't just think, oh, we know what is the correct thing to do. With like political correctness, that is changed so much just in the last like year. Like 2020 has literally been 10 years all wrapped into one. But it's like political correctness. What was politically correct like a month ago is not politically correct now. Like they literally just changed the definition of sexual preference after the trial with Amy Coney Barrett. She said sexual preference, and then like the next day they were all like, that's so offensive, everyone's offended by that. It's like, I didn't know that that was even offensive. It's like, because they literally just changed it. Like that, after that happened, they changed it in the dictionary, they changed it on Wikipedia. It's like, this is an offensive term. And it's like, the idea of why it's offensive is because like, oh, well, it's not a preference, it's just how you are. But it's like, the word preference doesn't mean that you chose to have that preference. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I prefer this over that. It's like, it's like, I'm like, oh, I chose to prefer this. You know what I mean? Like it, it blows my mind. That's like what can become offensive. And we talked about it. It's like, you can look up, is this racist? And people will be like, yeah, that's racist. Like you can, like, it's in the How I Met Your Mother joke. It's like, this school's meal plan is racist. It's like, that's funny. That's comical, because it's like, we can understand. It's like, okay, the meal plan isn't racist. Like it's like a lot of this.
It would be funny now. Like looking back, when I looked back at that episode, because we talked about it so much, and I think that episode is hilarious. But when I saw Ted standing there with the school's meal plan is racist sign, I think that if they did that joke now, people would not think it's funny.
I agree. There's a lot of things in How I Met Your Mother that I'm like, man, they can't even get away with saying that now. And it's like, it's still funny. And it's like, it's the fact that people can't make jokes right now. Like, that's what Shane Dawson got canceled for, jokes. Like, we're canceling comedians. It's like, how does that make any sense? They're like, and free speech is something that is exclusive to America, because in Canada and Europe, it's like people can go to jail for making jokes. That happened in, I think Canada is where they locked up a comedian for making a joke. I know maybe in Europe, they locked up someone for doing the Kung Fu fighting parody or something. Like they literally, it's an actual problem in other places in the world. And like, we just don't understand it, because it's like, it's the entitlement thing. It's like, we've always experienced, it's like, I can just say whatever I want to say. I can say horrible things about Trump and I'm not going to get thrown in jail. Like in China, where it's like, if you say Winnie the Pooh is illegal, Winnie the Pooh is illegal. It's like, excuse me? What?
I still love that.
It's just, the South Park joke is just the best. It's like, you see Winnie the Pooh in jail and he's like, oh, I've been locked up. It's just like, you know,
it's messed up nowadays because people are bringing up all these old clips of Jeffree and Shane. And it's like 10 years ago when we were growing up as social media, we were growing up in the age of technology. What a weird time, first of all, to grow up as a kid. Because at first we were playing outside. I mean, we would always play outside, play with the neighbors, you know. And then we had the explosion of social media and computers and technology as we're growing up. And cell phones. Oh, my God. What a long time.
Yeah.
But
we literally used to have little flip phones. And now it's like these smartphones that know everything you're doing. They know like when you're eating, when you're going to the bathroom. It's just like,
It's like Smart House on the Disney Channel movie.
It literally is Smart House. Like, we're one step away from throwing trash on the floor and it dissolving and cleaning it for us.
And then
Isn't that what happens?
Yeah, and then Smart House taking over and thinking that she's your actual mom and then locking you inside the house.
Yeah, good job, Disney, with that one. It's like, man, they're really making some commentary on Big Brother.
Yeah, it was on point. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure doesn't she start a tornado at one point, like in the house? Did that happen? I need to watch this movie again.
You need to watch it again.
I'm pretty sure.
On Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But so I don't know, it's just scary that like they pull up all these clips from so long ago and they like to throw it, like some people on like these platforms like to throw it back in like the opposition's face of like, oh, you can't say that it was a different time. But like it was a different time. Like, I don't know, like everybody said, like, and I bring this up too, dead baby jokes and like weird like emo things. And like that was like our humor. It was like edgy, it was really dark. And like I still see that dark humor now. Everybody says like everybody talks about wanting to kill themselves. Like, y'all can't pretend like you aren't edgy either. Like, you guys still have your emo e-boys.
Well, it's the punk side of youth, you know?
Yeah.
It's the punk rock. Is that what they call it? It's like, oh yeah, that's so punk rock. Like that, like
they would make,
you know, it's
they heard
it's kind of like the nihilist view of just like, no, like the establishment, no, go against it. But like now, like that's usually what youth does. They do, like, and that's what comedians do. They go on like the edge, like they find the line and then they take one step over. You know what I mean? It's like they're like, okay, here's the line of what I can say, and now I'm gonna push that even more. I'm gonna push that boundary because that's what comedians do. They walk that line because it's funny. Like, so the fact that they're like, people are doing this selectively too, you know, they're going back and they're like, okay, I want to cancel this person. What can I find that will get this person canceled? And they go back and they find like the fact that they're doing with Shane Dawson. It's like, he's a literal comedian. Jeffree Star, I don't know, like he's not a comedian. He's like an influencer, makeup guru, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but clearly he's stood a lot of different controversies. Like he's had, like, that's like his thing, like fighting with people and having spats or whatever. But like Shane Dawson is what I find most shocking because it's like, okay, we want to cancel Shane Dawson. What can we cancel him on? And that's the mindset. It's not like, because the people who are also calling for these cancellations are like people who could be canceled if they were held to the exact same standards. Because you look these extremely like liberal people who are like, oh yeah, I'm holier than thou, and you go back in their past and it's like I was telling you before, Jimmy Kimmel's one. He's done blackface. He was on the Man Show, which literally is like known for objectifying women. There's Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian on the Young Turks, where they were like, oh, these comedians are horrible. They should be canceled from YouTube altogether. And then you go a little bit back in their past and they were literally like pointing out women with camel toes and where their face is hidden. It's like, oh, guess that camel toe. And they're like doing like, and there's more than that. Like, it's not just that one thing. It's like they constantly were saying like objectifying things. And it's like, I don't think that they should be canceled for that. I don't think anyone should be canceled for like, especially jokes. That's like a line that's like, if we can't have comedy, then if we're offended by comedy, then maybe we need to take a step back. Maybe the problem is you. You know what I mean? It's just like, if this offends me, is it their fault? Is it their fault that what they said offends me? Or maybe I'm too easily offended. It's just like, it's self-reflection. It's an individual issue. It's not like we need to cancel everything that could possibly offend anyone. It's like, then no good conversations would have ever happened. It's like, if we're just basing things on what's in a popular opinion today, it's like, well, what's popular today was unpopular in the 60s. It's like, can we imagine if we just said, well, most people don't like Black people right now, so let's just cancel anyone. I mean, I know some people like them, but you know what I mean? Like, that's an extreme, example, but it's just like, yeah, if we just said, Martin Luther King, there's clearly people who disagree with you, so we're just gonna, you can't speak in public anymore. We're just gonna chant you down, which is literally what they're doing to people who oppose them. They go to their speeches and they shout until they can't say anything. And it's like, excuse me? Like, that's not, like, we need civil discourse, because that's the thing. If you don't agree with someone, the best thing to do is let their bad ideas be heard. So then you can be like, see, that's what they think. And we can all see that that's a bad idea. It's like, I was telling you about him before and I forgot his last name at the time, but Daryl Davis is the guy who literally he turned like 200 Klansmen. He's a Black man. He's an R&B artist. And he's famous, and he was going to people in the Klan, like extreme racists that literally believe that Black people are inferior. And he was going to them and he was talking to them and he was trying to, like, get through to them. And they literally, like, he explains it where then they would go back to their Klans meeting and they would hear this rhetoric about Black people and be like, that doesn't sound like Daryl. That's not right. Maybe there's a problem in my thinking. Maybe I have some kind of disconnect. I need to resolve that in my own mind. And they're like, yeah, what I've been doing is wrong. And people don't like Daryl Davis for this. People think that he is a racist white supremacist because he associates with them. You know what I mean? And it's like, and this is a Black guy. This is a guy who is trying to change people's mind with free speech. And that's a beautiful thing. It's like, imagine if we, like, obviously we all know now that the KKK is horrible. Like, that's popular opinion. That is common knowledge. Like, but before that wasn't the case. But if we just said, let's just not listen to them. Let's not hear how bad their ideas are. Let's just let them fester and grow, and then have this silent racist cult. Yeah. And we'll just never ever talk to them and let that grow. And it's like, no, this is how we beat down bad ideas. We let them be heard. We let other people see how bad they are. And I was telling you about, what'd you say?
And dismantle them.
Yeah. That's what's beautiful about free speech. People want to say that, just getting rid of these bad ideas is how they go away. It's like, that's not how bad ideas go away. It's like, if we had opposition to some of, like, the worst ideas in history, if we had open discourse, it's like, who's to say that couldn't have changed? Like, with all of these things, like these revolutions that have taken over, like these horrible dictators, like a good example, Soviet Union, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who spoke out against Stalin and Hitler. And his book is, like, one of the biggest reasons that the Soviet Union fell. So it's like, imagine if they were like, that's not popular, Solzhenitsyn. You can't write that. They tried to not get it published. They tried to get rid of this book. It's the book burning all over again. That's what cancel culture is. It's like book burning. Get rid of these ideas. It's like Dave Rubin came out with a book called "Don't Burn This Book." It's like, don't get rid of ideas that oppose you. It's like, if you truly believe in your ideas and you are speaking what you believe in, then any opposing position, and any other idea should be able to be taken down by what you think. If you truly believe it's right, then I could hear any other viewpoint and still and bolster my own opinion on what I have. Like, it's like, oh no, it's like, that makes my position stronger. If it makes it weaker, then listen to that viewpoint and see how I could change what I'm thinking to make it even stronger.
Yeah, it compels us to find the truth. And that's as a media and communications person, that's all I want to do. But my biases are obviously so, like, emotionally attached. Like, oh, like
Yeah, everyone is.
you
Yeah.
got these like clips resurfacing that make Donald Trump and that make Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson look super bad. Okay, well, I'm afraid now. I'm not gonna say, oh, I still like Shane Dawson because everybody's gonna call me racist. So I'm gonna go along with what I perceive as my group of people, like, oh, we're the anti-racist. And it's like, it's just so upsetting because Shane, he has 20 million subscribers, and like at the time we watched his stuff and like, you know, his Sinead videos, and it was like all fun and games, and now looking back at it, it's like, oh, he's a racist now. Like,
yeah. Well, it like what you're feeling, it's like that's scaring people into submission. That's like
yeah.
like cancel culture is also used as a threat. People like dox other people. They say everyone's going to view you as a racist unless you like get rid of what you're saying, unless you agree with me. And it's like you should never be scared to say something that you believe in because you're not going to fit in. It's like that's literally what we teach kids like growing up. It's like
what you believe in.
Stand up for what you believe in. Exactly. And it's like, yeah, they take these clips out of context. And it's so clearly one-sided in a lot of these things where it's like you can tell that these clips are purposely one way or the other, and it happens on both sides where it's like, oh, here's a clip of this person getting sucker punched. It's like, okay, well, what's the whole clip? Okay, he was pushing someone before that. Okay, what's the whole clip? Okay, he was defending a family, so he pushed them. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it just gets wider and wider till you actually understand what was going on. But so many people, they see the first clip of someone getting sucker punched, and boom, emotions going off. Oh, are they on my side or are they against me? I'm going to view it based on my tribe rather than as an objective individual. It's like you can't view things in that way. You should always want to dig deeper and understand situations to their fullest. Like not just, oh, well, what does my tribe think? Do we like that? Oh, it's bad. It's bad. Cancel it. You know, like
yeah.
It takes away people's ability to think critically and think for themselves. If you just say like that, another thing that's scary, I'm all over the place right now, but like
no, it's awesome.
Fox specifically came out and made a video saying that reporters are gatekeepers. It's a literal video that they created, and their arguments for why reporters were gatekeepers, meaning they tell you, like, they decide what you see.
Yep.
And their argument was, like, they're trying to dumb it down for the audience. And they're like, oh, yeah, like, if you're a reporter and you're getting all of these different, like, things, people don't, like, if people hear the other side, they might get all confused and not know what to think. So we need to tell them what to think. Like, that's, like, they were literally saying, it's like, yeah, see, when people hear different sides of the argument, they get all confused and they don't know what to think. It's like,
oh my
excuse me, people are much more intelligent than that. If they hear one thing and hear an opposing thing, it's like, okay, well, let me dig. Like, if I'm hearing literally one news source saying the exact opposite of this news source, which I see every day, I try to search something and I see two headlines that say the exact opposite. And I mean facts. They're like, this happened. No, this didn't happen. And it's like, well, which is it? It's like, I'm all confused. I guess I'll never know. It's like, no, I'll dig into it and see what actually happened. And it's like, you can get down to the truth if you just look into it. And I feel like a lot of these news sources, mainstream media, think people are too dumb to look into it for themselves. They're just like, just put it out there. They'll believe it. They'll eat it up. It's like Nightcrawler is a movie that I just watched because the whole saying, if it bleeds, it leads. Einer, hush.
He's
so
like growling and whining.
Yeah, like.
But yeah, no, that fades exactly into like what I wanted to talk about too. Was like we are so attracted to negativity, and if you say negative things, if you say crazy, bombastic things like Jeffree Star, And
You get likes. You get
any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are doing this thing where they will say, the most outrageous things, or they'll say things that are like popular to one side. So let's say I hate Trump. They'll be like, Trump's the worst, right? Orange man, bad, right? Here's my PayPal. They'll literally tweet and then their PayPal's attached to it. It's like, oh man, Trump does suck. $5. It's just like people are monetizing it. People are literally making money off of like these two like streams of thinking. They're like, man, America, let's go. Hell yeah, $5. Like it's like they're making people out to be idiots. They're making it to seem it's like, oh, you can only agree with my side or the other side. And just follow me and never look at any other side, and you'll be good.
Or against us. That's what you've said before. I love that.
Yeah, it's sad because I literally see like news sources saying don't look anywhere else. Don't like after the debate and the Proud Boys were brought up, reporters were actively saying don't interview Enrique Ontario, who's one of the leaders of the Proud Boys, and he's half black.
Okay, can you tell me what the Proud Boys are? Because during the debate, they asked him, "Can you denounce white supremacy right now?" And Trump said, "Proud Boys, stand by." It's like, wait, what the hell?
No, so yeah, I'll actually explain what happened there. So he goes, "Can you denounce all white supremacy and right-wing militias?" He kind of put them together. So when he was speaking, because I looked at the transcript, he goes, "Can you denounce white supremacy?" Trump goes, "Sure." And all like right-wing militias. And he goes, "Okay, just say a name." So Trump says, I think, sure, 3. He's like, sure, yeah, okay, yeah. And then he goes, and right-wing militias. So he kind of lumps them together, which those are two different things, right? It's like if you're in a militia, you're not a white supremacist. So he lumps those together, which is like a misleading way to frame that in the first place. And then when he's talking, he's like, "Just say a name and I'll denounce them. Say a name and I'll denounce them. Say a name and I'll denounce them." And then, and then Joe, yeah, I denounce all. No, and so then Joe Biden shouts, "Proud Boys, Proud Boys." At this point, probably no one knows who the Proud Boys are. That's not like a thing that a lot of people know about.
Yeah,
so
I had no idea.
He goes, "Okay, sure. Yeah." And so he tells them to stand down, or Chris Wallace says, "Tell them to stand down," or Joe Biden says, one of them said, "Tell them to stand down." And Trump goes, "Okay, yeah, sure. Proud Boys, stand back and stand by." And I think I've heard people talk about that. I think the reason he literally refused to say stand down is because Trump just didn't want to repeat what they were telling him to repeat. You know what I mean? So he's like, "I'm not going to say stand down. I'm stand by and stand back." I mean, he's not good with his words. And then later he did denounce them after the debate. But I don't think they needed. Okay, so the reason that was confusing is because he said white supremacists, right-wing militias. The Proud Boys are a whole nother entity. They're not either one of those things. So the Proud Boys are self-described Western chauvinists, meaning like, and the word chauvinist literally means like being prideful of whatever. Because like you'll hear like male chauvinists. It's like, oh, you're proud of being a man. But that's not, yeah, it's like, so people get that confused because it's like, oh, a male chauvinist. It's like, oh, they're just proud they have a penis. It's like, no, the word chauvinist just means like proud and, grateful of whatever. Yeah. So they're just proud of Western culture. They appreciate Western society. They're extremely patriotic.
Okay.
And yeah, and they literally talk about Enrique Ontario, who was then interviewed by Tim Pool, because Tim Pool is one of those people who he'll say something that'll piss off the right, and they'll say something that pisses off the left, and then people are like, oh, he's right wing, oh, he's far left, like,
What is it?
but he describes himself as central left. That's how he describes himself. But I've seen other people who are like, he's far right. He's not. But anyways, he interviews him, and Enrique Ontario is one of the leaders of the Proud Boys, and he is like Afro-Cuban. So he's like half black, half Cuban. And reporters afterwards were saying, don't interview him, don't interview him. Don't, like, because it's like they were labeled as white supremacists when a lot of them aren't white. So it's like
People are just gonna,
there's a disconnect there.
you're interviewing white supremacist KKK. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, Wagner, hush. They, you know, like they didn't even want to give him a platform. That's what they say now. No, you're good. But yeah, they say, don't give them a platform. Don't give them a platform. It's like, that's an extension of cancel culture. It's like, yeah, don't listen to what they have to say because they might say something that you think is not stupid and we don't want you to hear that. It's like they might say something actually meaningful. So we don't want you to hear that. And yeah, he explains what the Proud Boys are. They were created as a joke, according to him. Like it was just a bunch of patriotic guys who and then they came up with these rules, and they were kind of a joke, and then it sort of got solidified into a group. But now their main goal is to stand up for Western beliefs and like stand up for America and defend our rights and stuff like that. Like that's kind of where they are. So that was like, they were actually happy when that happened during the debate, because then a bunch of people had to learn who they were.
Yeah.
But then when reporters are like, don't interview him, don't give them any attention, it's like, well, they were brought up. Why? We should know what the two presidential candidates are talking about. We should know who those people are. It's like, no, don't look into them. Don't look at them. It's like, that's literally what reporters were saying. It's like, don't interview them. It's like, well, shouldn't we know who they're talking about? Shouldn't we, like, it's like, no, we're just gonna give you a small snippet of what they are. They're sexist, racist pigs, and don't look into it at all, because that's what they are, right? Okay, anyways, moving on. It's like, always be skeptical of someone saying, don't look over here, don't look into it. It's like, yeah, exactly. And I was telling you about, it's like when mainstream media shows a video, or sorry, they talk about a video, but they don't show the video. It's like, that's sketchy. I'm gonna go look at this video. Oh my God, if you want to wrap it back to Trump a little bit, a perfect example, they do it to him all the time. A perfect example of it was, and I heard this from my friend, I didn't even know that Trump said this. Someone was like, oh yeah, this is a horrible thing that he said. I hope all Trump supporters like drink bleach. I hope they all drink bleach like Trump was telling them to. And like, you look on CNN, you look on all of these things, they're like, Trump, do not drink bleach like the president instructed. It's like, oh, okay. Trump told people to drink bleach. Better look this up. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, watch the video. Trump is talking about possible things for coronavirus, how to treat it. He's like, yeah, we're looking into a lot of things. A lot of things are being looked into. Yeah, what are we doing? Oh, are we looking into maybe possibly injecting disinfectant into the lungs? That's are we doing that? We're researching that. We're researching that. He literally
or something.
Yeah, I mean, so he was talking about what people were the experimental treatments that were actually happening. So he turns to the scientists and he goes, are we trying that? Are we trying that? Are we trying to do this? Blah, blah. He clearly doesn't understand what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he probably, I mean, he doesn't have a grasp on that. That's why he has those people there, because they come up and they're saying, okay, this is what we're trying. But, you know, he has his grasp on what they're trying to do. It's like, yeah, we're trying to inject disinfectant. But then you literally go on CNN and he's like, he told them to drink Clorox. It's like, wait, not only are you saying he told them to do something, you're using a name brand, because it's like, that is so far from the truth.
Yeah.
You didn't even say Clorox, but they're literally saying he told people to drink Clorox. It's like, okay, well, that's just a lie. It's like, I could understand it. Like, what would be acceptable would be if they were, and not even acceptable, but what would be more understandable if they were like, him saying that could encourage Americans to like try their own treatments. It's like, the president shouldn't be saying things like that because it could misinform Americans. But instead, they literally said he told people to drink bleach when he didn't tell them to drink bleach. He said, are we trying that? Maybe we're trying the injections of the disinfectant? Is that something we're doing? Something we're doing. Yeah, trying it. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it right there shows the dishonesty in how they report versus what actually happened. And it's like little things like that where it's like, okay, that's not that big of a deal, but it does kind of shine a light on if that's what they're saying happened, like what they're saying versus what actually happened. It's like, there's clearly a disconnect. Yeah. So it's concerning.
And by just convincing everybody that you should belong to this group or this group, then you're hindering your own chances of like growing as a person and like having critical thinking skills like for yourself.
Yeah. It's a natural part of learning. Like, I think I wrote something down like, yeah, I mean, it's just like, if you want to truly educate someone, like, you give them all sides. It's like when you're teaching a child, you don't like, it's like, oh, I want to teach you about the American Revolution. It's like, if I just told them, well, British people were just oppressing Americans and that's the end of that, and then we, slapped back. It's like, that's not an accurate representation of what was actually happening at the time. It's just like, oh yeah, well, they were just being like the worst on us. It's like, that's a representation that maybe some Americans have, but you need to explain all sides of what was going on. That you need to understand the context of what was happening during that time. You understand like why the founding fathers decided to separate and all of that. It's like, I don't know, that maybe that's not the best example, but it's, you get what I'm saying. It's just like, you need to show someone all sides in order for them to truly understand what really happened. Because it's like, I can tell you just one side of it and you can think and then someone will come up, well, what about this? And they don't even know about that. So how can they ever come up with an argument to oppose it?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. It's like, and I see that in debates. I see that like and it's both sides. So you'll have someone arguing for the right, someone arguing for the left. They'll be like, well, what about this? It's like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Well, what about this? Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. It's like, they literally don't know the other side's arguments. So they can't
like have a conversation or debate about it because like we don't know what each other's talking about. And it's like, oh wow, I actually learned like that you actually do have a good point there.
Yeah, and that's the first thing you do in a debate. Like when I did a few debates, it's like the first thing you do is research the other person's side and figure out how to dismantle their viewpoints.
Like, I know you're going to bring this one thing up and I have like a rebuttal.
Yeah. Yeah, and as soon as they do, you're able to know what they're talking about and tell them why they're wrong.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's also a good argument for like in Germany, they still have like, you've told me this, that's why I bring it up. I already knew it, but like they obviously have, you can visit like where Anne Frank was, you can visit the concentration camps, you can visit these memorials because it's good to remember the history.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's the argument for the tearing down statues or not, you know, and that's another perfect example of this got brought up during the debate. It got brought up during both debates, and when I say both debates, I mean the presidential and vice president debates. It's like the very fine people quote, which he's talking about. Like if you watch that whole clip, and he goes, and I'm not talking about white supremacists and the KKK because I condemn them totally, but there are very fine people on both sides talking about the statues. It's like, and that's one thing to give credit to Trump for something, is he doesn't attack like the average Biden voter, where as you see on the other side, and I'll explain that a little bit more, but it's like Biden and Hillary, like the famous quote, the deplorables. It's like, and everyone, when she said that, everyone knew that was bad for her, because you're saying the other side is irredeemable. Biden called Trump voters ugly, chumps, like ugly folk and chumps and stuff like that. And it's like, well, Trump is like super aggressive towards like certain like political figures or reporters or stuff like that. He's like really critical towards the fake news media and like all of that, but he doesn't want, like, because he wants to get the Biden voters, you know, he wants them, like, so he never like insults them. He never insults people who could vote for him. You know, it's like he says, even though, you know, we probably know where he lines up on the statue issue, but he didn't say those people are stupid for like wanting to tear down statues, like those ugly people wanting to, like those stupid leftists. Like he doesn't say that. He there a lot of the times he gets caught up and says things like very fine people on both sides, and then they take that and they use that against him. It's like when he was literally just saying, it's like, I understand people want to tear down statues, I understand people who don't. It's like,
yeah.
So it sucks that the media does that, even when he's not saying something stupid. You know what I mean? It's like, I can understand highlighting the stupid things that he says, because he does stupid things. He tweeted like an article that was literally a parody article. It's like, oh man, that was stupid, dude. Like, it's just like, he does stupid things. Why don't like, but then they try to turn the things that he says that actually aren't bad, and he tries to turn them that against him too. So it just shows how, like, it shows their bias. It's like they hate him no matter what he does. So they're just gonna change. Like they're never gonna give him a win. Like if he actually does something right, like the peace deals in the Middle East, it's like the 3 historic peace deals. It's like they literally were like, it's just a distraction. It's like, you won't even give him that. Like, yeah, we've been talking about peace in the Middle East forever, and they're not talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah, people don't focus on the good things that people did. They just focus on...
Yeah, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah. On all these clips, and then labeling them, and then shunning them, and then... Do you think that Trump has contributed to everybody's distrust in the media? And obviously now we're like, people don't trust the government, people don't trust like the media, it's really scary. Like, do you think that the Trump presidency, like, I feel like the Trump presidency contributed to that?
Yeah, and I think it did, but so people often say it's like, was Trump a symptom or like the cause? Was he a cause or the symptom? And it's like, that's hard to say, but I think it made it worse. And it made it worse because, one, he was saying the fake news media, he was, you know, constantly pointing at the media saying, you guys are lying, you guys are lying, you guys are lying. And that, you know, spreads distrust. But then what spreads distrust even more is he's saying all these things, and then they prove him right by changing what he's saying. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's both sides. It's like him saying all these things that like are super aggressive towards the media, and then the media fighting back. And it's a cycle. It's like, you can't say one started before the other. It's like they were super hard on Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump went after them, and then they went after Donald Trump, and now it's just like a cycle of, he's like, I hate the media, and they're like, we hate the orange man is bad. And it's like
it's like a game of like, telephone, because somebody says something and then like I'll report on that and insinuate like and assume that meant something else, and then it like
you assume their intent. The framing is one of the worst tools that they use. They frame a situation in a certain light to appease a certain side. So instead of outright lying, which I brought up a couple times where they literally just outright lie about something. Like most recently, they said a lawsuit was dropped when it actually wasn't. And in their own article, like if you click on the article that they said, oh, they dropped this aspect of their lawsuit. So you click on it and you click on the lawsuit and they didn't drop it. It's like in their own link, it disproved what they were saying. And it's like, that was an outright lie. Like that was just not true. And you could literally fact check it by reading their own article. They do that. Like there are several instances that I've found where it's like, oh, their own article fact checks themselves. But so when they do that, it's like, that is really easy to figure out if they outright lie. But when they just frame something in a certain light, they'll be like, they'll purposely leave out context, or they'll imply something, or, you know, it's like what I was saying about like videos are a good way to understand that, of like, oh, just show this clip of what was happening and don't show what was happening around it, because it's like, oh, we can frame it so it looks like our side were the good guys. But it's like, and they do that in articles too, like writing what happened, or
it's absolutely the case with Jeffree and Shane too.
Yeah, they do that with Shane Dawson, and it's like, that's just the weirdest one, like, because I like Shane Dawson.
Yeah,
like,
we grew up with Shane, like YouTube.
Yeah.
And the weird scene time, like that was our thing. And like, I don't know, it's funny because I was interviewing this girl for this other podcast. She's a Jeffree fan, and she was like, she like said to me like, I'm like a scene kid. She's like, but you're like the pretty blonde popular girl. I was like, girl, how far have I come that you think that of me? Because no, I'm definitely one of the fucking weirdos, okay? Like, and like didn't fit in with people. So obviously, like when we had like the rise of the YouTube like platform and social media where we could like watch people like Smosh and Destry and Shane Dawson, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like the people who didn't fit in like had a voice. And the misfits. Like Shane Dawson, like I told you about this, but it's like when I was in high school or maybe middle school, I can't remember, but it's like I would watch Shane with friends or whatever. It's completely deleted now, so I can never find it ever again. But he was literally like
a lot.
Yeah,
because he was being canceled.
And I think that's the problem. Like we talked about it before. It's like as soon as you apologize, as soon as you like admit that you were in the wrong, even if you don't believe that you were, which I don't know if he does believe that, because he like, when you apologize, you admit it's like, oh, I was in the wrong and I was horrible. And it's like, that only like makes them come after you more. It's like, we've seen that with people. It's like the people who don't apologize, like South Park writers, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, I think, like they're not going to apologize. Like they're just going to keep making like content that literally offends every single side, because it's like, that's what comedy is. It's just like, it's, if you apologize, then they're like, oh, we got him. Like now we can just like pummel him into the dirt.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like, so I think that's part of his problem, like the fact that he deleted stuff. But when I was in high school, it's like I would watch his stuff and he's like, it would be him hanging out with his friends, and just like it made me like feel like I, had a friend in him, you know, he was just like, I want to like share this with you guys. It's like he was always like, hey guys, like he
It's like
clearly cared about his audience more than other people. Yeah. I don't know.
I felt like
that's my,
and like he has always been kind of like a role model for me of like, I want to be somebody who expresses themselves creatively and like somebody who's real and genuine. And like I loved watching his videos. Like he lived in LA. It was such like, it was so fun to like relate to him. And
yeah.
I think that that's why something about their personalities, like with Jeffree and Shane and even Trump, it's like, oh, I can relate to this person like on such a personal and deep like level. Like they like speak to me. And so like I want to support them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think Trump plays on that a lot of the times. Like, and I think the media often like puts their own foot in their mouth because when they insult Trump with certain things that he does, like eating fast food, it's like a lot of Americans eat fast food. It's like, but like Trump unashamedly likes McDonald's. And like then they're like, what a disgusting he eats McDonald's, what a fat orange man.
Really,
and then people are like, wait, I eat McDonald's. It's like, you're insulting me. It's like, it's the same problem where they're like, deplorables, you're unredeemable, you're racist, you're transphobic. It's like, you know what, I know that I'm not those things, and I'm not just gonna stand by while like I'm not just gonna kowtow and be like, man, you calling me those things make me feel bad, so I guess I'm just gonna agree with you and come over to your side and we're just gonna hold hands and you're gonna like respect me now. It's like, they're not gonna respect you. If you apologize, they don't respect that. They're like, now we can really bully them. Like,
yeah,
that's not like, you have to stand up against bullies. Like, you can't just be like, man, please stop picking on me. I'm like, what if I agree with everything you say and like, and I bully those people too? Like, I don't know. It's just, it's people. Yeah, people want, like, obviously no one wants to be canceled. No one wants to be attacked. Like you said yourself, it's like, I'm scared if I say that I like Shane, then people will think I'm this, that, and the third. Literally insert the name here. And it's like, well, if people are able to bully you into thinking a certain way, then like you don't stand for anything. Because it's like, oh, people can just change what I believe in because they make me feel bad. They hurt my feelings. Like,
I mean, that's basically sums up like everybody trying to act like the popular kids in high school. It's like, ew, like I don't want to be like, I'm not gonna like try to be like them because y'all are boring.
Yeah, I mean, like I never fit in with like the popular people, and it's like I never wanted to. They like, it seems fake. It seems unreal. It's like they like, if you it's the idea of basing your entire personality on people's perception of you. It's like, well, I'll just be whatever people want me to be at that given time because I'll be liked, but then you end up being no one, like absolutely no one. And so, I mean, it's kind of, it's strange because the culture, it's like, everyone's unique, everyone should be their own person, but also if you don't agree with us, you're out. Like, it's like, what? It's like, everyone's unique in terms of like this is kind of how I see it. They're like, oh, like your background, your genetics, your like who you are, like your sexual orientation, your race, your gender, all of these things, those are individual to you, but you have to think exactly the way we think. It's like, so the like unmutable characteristics are what matter, and our own thinking doesn't. Like the way that we like think and like, the
fact that you guys like, say that you're all like so
accepting. Yeah. So tolerant is the word.
Like,
yeah.
Label.
It's like,
yeah. And so quick to label, oh, you're a Trump supporter? Well, delete, like,
yeah,
we're not friends.
It's like, yeah, we're tolerant except for anyone who doesn't think the way that we do.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it comes like, and I don't think it's like an evil thing, because I think it comes from a genuine place of like, oh, we hate people who aren't tolerant. It's like, okay, that makes sense. Like you like, but then you become intolerant of people who you perceive to be intolerant. And then you be like, it's a cycle. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I hate people who are hateful. It's like,
That's literally me, dude.
wait a second.
I hate them because I
Yeah.
perceive them for being like
Hateful, yeah.
and it just fuels more anger and negativity and hate and like
It does. I think with like these separate echo chambers and like this division, it's like so many people have so much hate in their heart. Like very truly, they just hate. They have so much hatred, and it's like, and then they want to portray it as like, oh no, I just have love for the little guy, so I hate the big guy. And it's like, well, like, is it really coming from the love, or is it coming more from the hate? Because all you're talking about is the hate. All you're talking about is like how much you hate these people. It's like, I hate you so much because I'm trying to protect that person. Oh, whoops, I stepped on that person. Oh, well, I still hate you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like they're willing to stomp over the little guy to like, it's like they're willing to attack Shane Dawson, who is literally has always been like, I don't, he's always been on the outside. Like his start like was from a lower place. It's like
he was the kid that had no friends. Like
yeah, it's like he didn't have friends. He had like a weight issue. He had like he literally got fired from Jenny Craig, and like he had like the bulimia or anorexia. He had the eating disorder, and like he struggles with depression, like he struggled with being gay, like all of these things, and they're attacking this guy, like all of the things that they say that they stand up for, and they're attacking him because they think he's racist, when it's like, I've seen Shane Dawson with his friends, like he's so loving, like he doesn't like, I think people really just have gotten away from what these terms actually mean, like honestly, because it's like, what do you think makes a racist person? Like saying one thing as a joke and then like being labeled as that for the rest of their life, or it's like accepting that everyone makes mistakes, and like we have to like be forgiving, accepting, like all of these things. It's like, nope, we're just gonna cancel the gay eating disorder fat kid. Like it's like,
I know
okay.
it makes me think, I wanted to say it earlier, but what's the saying where it's like, ye who cast the first stone or whatever.
Exactly that.
Hear ye.
Oh yeah, it's yep. It's exactly that.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
we can all relate to feeling like an outcast or feeling like low self-esteem or like we don't fit in.
yeah, and I think that's what they play on a lot of the times. It's like, you don't fit in, so we'll accept you over here. Just like adopt our ideology completely into your soul, because then when anyone attacks it, they're attacking you. Yeah, it's just like, it's the emotional attachment that people have to, like, when you wrap yourself up in your ideology. That's another thing that Jordan Peterson advocates against. It's like ideologies, because it's like someone asks like, what is the ideology of Jordan Peterson? It's like, no ideology. Like,
now
like,
he's in
the ideology of not having an ideology. It's like, it's being an individual. It's individualism. It's like, as soon as you just like you invest your entire self into an ideology, it's like the idea of people don't have ideas, ideas have people. And that's like the best quote. Jordan Peterson is quoting someone when he says that. So, but I don't remember who he says or who originally said the quote. But it's like, yeah, ideas absolutely have people. They collect this group, and it's like, now you're in our ideology and you defend it. Like, people have literally died defending ideologies. It's like, because they believe it's more than themselves. It's like no, it's the idea of the like collective over the individual, the idea of this, the state comes before the citizen.
Yeah.
It's like it's why millions of people die
In wars.
in wars and in like their own governments. Like the reason, like Maoist China, Stalinist Russia, and Hitler Germany. It's like,
absolutely.
why did those? It's like those ideas completely captured those people, and like if they didn't die defending it, they died as a result of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, like, I can't remember where, I think it was, like, on some Shenandoah thing, because I've attended, like, a lot of these, like, conferences where they're talking about Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, and one of the, like, questions was, like, I don't know, it just, like, shocked me because, like, it was, like, on a spectrum, like, I'm willing to die, like, for the cause, and it's, like, I'm not willing to die for shit, like, I'm a pussy. I am not willing to like be a hero. I would rather be a coward, okay? Just like coward.
Well, that's not good. Well, so it's kind of a combination of like standing up for what you believe in. Like there's a difference between standing up for what you believe in and like defending an ideology to your death. It's the whole idea of I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees, you know? And it's what like hundreds of dystopia books are written about. And like 1984 is a good example of just controlling the people, controlling what people see. They're constantly changing history, like the revisionist history. They're like, they have complete control over what people think and do, and that's where Big Brother was popularized. Like, he's always watching. They have like a TV in their house that is always on, and you can't turn it off, and people have to like hide in the corner and stuff. It's like, I forget why I started talking about this. What were you talking
about? Dying for a cause.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, like, if you're... but it's still important to stand up for what you believe in. Yeah. So, you just have to... Yeah. Like, I mean, like,
we're being mass murdered in Nazi Germany, and then, like, we had to save them and fight for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you just have to make sure that you're not completely grasped by an ideology. It's like you can't just act on the behalf of like these ideas without completely understanding them. And Wagner, hush. He's just been whining this whole time. I wonder, can you hear him?
Yeah, I honestly knew the whole podcast is just Wagner's clacking around and also just making groans and whines, but it's fine. People can deal with it.
Yeah. He's cute. That's all that matters.
I know. I wonder if Eloise is still asleep behind the pillows. She probably is. To be Eloise or Wagner, honestly. That's the life.
Right.
Yay. Well, I think that pretty much sums up. We talked for like 2 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That pretty much sums up what I wanted to cover. Thank you for coming on. Is there any parting thoughts you want to leave the podcast with?
I did want to bring up just a Jordan Peterson quote that I thought was awesome. Yeah, we can end on this. It's one of like the most meme moments in his Kathy Newman interview, where they talk about his book and all of these controversial ideas. But this is the moment where he literally says, "Gotcha," and she's like, "Yes, you have got me." Like, they're both like super, like they have their accents. I think she's British, but it's funny. So she's talking to him, and he says something like, well, like they're talking about political correctness, and like why wouldn't you just like watch what you say in order to like not offend someone? And he's like, well, you're exercising your free speech, certainly at risk of offending me, and that's fine, like more power to you. And then she's like, she's like literally speechless for like a minute, because it's like, yeah, it's like we're able to have this conversation. You're able to say whatever you want, and yeah, it might offend me, but like this is how hard conversations happen. So like more power to you. It's like, yeah, I will absolutely defend anyone's right to disagree with me, you know.
Speak your truth. Peace and we're the
Wait.
Podcast.
No, I don't like the speak your truth thing. Speak the truth, not your truth. Your truth should also be the truth.
That's like a mainstream thing.
It's like, speak your truth, girl. It's like, wait, is your truth different than the truth? Like, I don't like that. Yeah.
Okay. Outro. I'm gonna end it now. Peace.